Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I want to talk to you about the latest episode of Doom Patrol. It was called IMORTUS Patrol. And as the episode starts, apparently it's IMORTUS Day in the wake of IMORTUS's scream at the end of last week. And the whole gang, including the sex ghosts, now corporeal, are singing about how happy they are about it. It seems to be a Christmas-like holiday. Even Cliff is back in his real body, and Larry is healed too. Seemingly, Jane doesn't have the other personalities anymore. In the next song, both Casey and Jane realize that something seems not quite right, even though they're happy that it's IMORTUS Day, aka Immortimus. It would seem that Jane and Casey have feelings for each other, or at least Casey has feelings for Jane, but they don't express it to each other outside of the song. Then it's Laura and Rita's turn to sing about how great of friends they are, though Laura flashes back to some of the not great stuff she's done, and realizes that she's singing and stops singing the same song as Rita, while Rita and the sex ghosts continue the song they were singing. When the song ends, she realizes what's going on, that every day is IMORTUS Day because it's an IMORTUS fever dream. Vic and Dorothy decorate a gingerbread house of the mansion and talk about his robotics club, before Vic seems to realize that something's wrong as well, but doesn't say it. Apparently, they're all expecting IMORTUS to come for dinner. Meanwhile, Cliff puts a video in, thinking that it's porn or hoping that it's porn, and sings a song about doing his thing when Laura visits him to see if he had any odd thoughts lately, and he says no. Laura then runs into Larry and says she needs to show him something. Casey visits Jane to make sure they're cool between them after their weird moment, to find her painting an image from her mind that she doesn't know the meaning of, and it happens to be the train in the underground. The team alarm then goes off as Laura calls everyone in for a meeting, at which point they all get a laugh out of Larry in his bandages. She then has to explain to the whole group what's going on, which gets even more laughs at first. Then after Rita leaves the meeting to go work on the ham with Dorothy and Casey, she shows the rest of them that what was really on the tape that Cliff was watching was footage of them talking about their conditions from years ago, which we saw in a previous season. One by one, they come around to reality, yet Cliff doesn't get his robot body back right away for some reason. When Vic tells Dorothy what's really going on, she questions why anybody would want to go back to any other life but this one, seeing as it's so happy, causing Vic to sing about how he isn't sure which world he wants to live in, until Laura interrupts him. When he gets back to singing the song, he's again interrupted by Cliff taking a whiz over the hedges behind him, because he wanted to feel the wind on his other self one last time while he still could. Jane tells Casey that now that she has her memories back, she's kind of all over the place and seems to indicate that she can't be in any relationships, including one with Casey, which Casey pretends to be okay with, but really she's not, obviously. Larry reminds Mr. 104 who he is and explains that they need to escape the fake world, but Mr. 104 doesn't seem to want to, causing him to break into song as well. Rita is upset that she's been told the truth, and she wants to stay in the fake world because there, she's not the monster. And when Laura tells her that she was never a monster in her view, Rita says that's because in their relationship, Laura was always the monster. Cliff calls his family and talks to his daughter and grandson, after which he sings a song with his robot man persona when he's confronted by him over his sadness over having to go back to reality. IMORTUS arrives and the team is split over going versus staying, so Rita says they all need to pretend everything is good and get through dinner so that IMORTUS will leave. So they all sit down for a very awkward dinner as IMORTUS goes around the table and makes them each say what they're grateful for, but Laura blows the cover and lets the cat out of the bag that they know everything is fake, which pisses off IMORTUS. She then starts magic choking Laura, but Rita picks up the baton and continues pretending everything's the way it was made to look, and pretends to praise IMORTUS, but she does it in a kind of backdoor way at first, which leads to her harshly criticizing her at the end. Cliff tries to pretend like Rita wasn't serious, but Dorothy says she agrees with her, and that what's been given to them to live is a lie and a prison, just like she's kind of been in her whole life, which she says she can't do anymore. And she says she has to leave, which Casey also says she's going to do. Soon, Mr. 104 follows suit, as do Vic and Jane, sending IMORTUS into a bit of a tizzy, at which point she then bodily controls all the team members and marches them into a different room to dance along while she sings about how they're all ungrateful and how they're all doomed, before snapping herself away and returning everybody to their prior state in the real world. So I actually enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I'm a big fan of musicals. If you've watched this channel for a while, you probably heard me say that before, especially around the time that Star Trek did the musical. And So I thought this episode was great. My wife was cringing the whole time. I don't think she watched the whole episode, actually. She hates musicals a lot of the time. But I absolutely loved it. I thought the music parts were great. And, a lot of the singing was joyous before they figured out what was going on. And I thought that was a great change because a lot of this show is about the characters whining about what's bothering them. And don't get me wrong, they got to that in this episode as well. But there was a lot of joyous singing in the beginning, and I quite liked that. I liked the scenes between Rita and Laura where they're talking about what great friends they are, and especially the part where Laura tries to comfort Rita. I thought that was great, even though Rita kind of shit on her when she did. And I thought that this episode was like a return to form of, the way things were in the first two seasons, where they're presented with a particular situation that they have to try to get out of, and they figure out a way to do it without a whole lot of whining. There was some whining, but not as much as usual. And it didn't feel contrived like a lot of the episodes kind of do, and it didn't drag like a lot of the episodes do. It just felt more like actual Doom Patrol, and I really liked it. I really liked the singing. The singing was great. So I really enjoyed it. I wish more episodes were like this. It's too bad the show is almost going to end. They're not going to have an opportunity to do more episodes like this. But the last two seasons, I think, would have been better if they had done more episodes like this. I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, a particular highlight of the singing in this episode was Michelle Gomez. She's just fantastic. I love her in everything she's in. And Cliff's song was very funny as well. So that was good. And we know from the preview that next week, they're going to get back to dealing with the butts. The butt monsters come back next week. So that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that. But I really don't have anything else to say about this episode. I just really enjoyed it, and I wish that, more episodes these last couple seasons had been like this one. But that's it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a recap and review of next week's episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.